Welcome back to Royals Weekly. I am your host, Marcus Mead, and joining me as always, the bad boy of vexillology, my brother Mike.
Hey, they say they fly forever. Flags fly forever, baby.
I was wondering if you would know what that
Flag
is.
master right here. What do they
How
call
do you
those
know
people?
what that is?
Because I'm highly intelligent with the
Oh, okay.
vocabulary
All
of
right.
a Rhodes Scholar. I mean,
All right.
no, I had to
For
look it
our,
up.
okay, for our audience who doesn't know, vexillology is the study of flags, and so I threw it in there because I was like, Mike will never know what this means, and we'll have. But he went ahead and cheated and looked it up,
I had
and
to.
so yeah, the opening joke is now ruined.
It's ruined.
But anyway, that's okay. We'll get it. We'll move on with our lives. On this week's episode, we'll look back at the Yankees and Pirates series from this last week. Both very interesting series in my mind. And then we'll provide a little playoff preview during our spotlight segment. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and just jump right into it. I mean, it might be tempting fate a little bit, but I don't give a shit. And so we're going to do a little playoff preview, and then we're going to preview this week's games. But first, we have an Apple Podcast review to read because somebody was awesome enough to go leave us an Apple Podcast review. Make sure you're doing the same. Go leave an Apple Podcast review. We'll read it on the show. Also, make sure you're subscribing to our Substack. That's royalsweekly.substack.com. We put out an extra episode every Wednesday. $5 a month gets you an extra episode. Gives you one weekly article per week. I wrote about something interesting. Mike has something to say.
We put out an extra episode every Thursday. We record it on Wednesdays.
Sorry, yes.
We put it out every
Thursday mornings.
You say that Wednesday every week, and
I'm sorry, I forget.
I've never stopped you.
It always seems like Wednesday, but it's actually Thursday morning it comes out. We record it Wednesday night. But you get an extra episode every week. You get an extra article every week, and sometimes you get extra bonus stuff that we just throw in because we have ideas and we want to write about them. But anyway, here's the Apple Podcast review we got. It's from somebody calling themselves The Real Teflon. I don't know if it's like The Real Teflon or The Real TFLAN. I don't know exactly, but that's the sort of name that they wrote under. And the headline is Great Put Together Podcast. I agree. It is well put together by whoever produces this bad boy. I don't know who it is, but he's on top of his game. Anyway, wonderful review. I'm just going to read the whole thing. It's great to follow along the season with Mike and Mark. Both very knowledgeable when it comes to baseball metrics. They give very detailed opinions on the game. Also, they dive into prospects both in minors and in the draft. It's something I don't do myself, so they give a rundown for me. We also love guest appearances from Alex Duvall. So I don't know if this was Alex's ghost account or if this is just somebody who's a big Alex Duvall fan. I am too. And so thank you so much.
I don't think it's Alex.
We really appreciate it.
Alex calls you Marcus.
He does.
And he called you Mark. This person called you Mark. So it makes me think it's somebody who knows us pretty personally.
Well, maybe they call me Mark because you call me Mark.
That could be it, yeah.
And so if they listen to the show, they're like, oh, he goes by Mark. Anyway, thank you so much, The Real TF Flan. We really appreciate it. That was an excellent review, and you deserve kudos and props for that. Everybody else, go out and be like The Real TF Flan and leave us an Apple Podcast review. We'd really appreciate it. We also have to remind you that BetOnline is the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for everything football. BetOnline has every stat, every matchup, and even live odds and spreads to bet on during the games. Think you know your stuff? Get it on their $200,000 mega contest and pick 5 games against the spread every week for your chance at weekly prizes and a share of $200,000. When the game's over, head on over to their online casino and get in on a game of blackjack or poker or unwind with one of their over 150 slot games. Head to the website today to get in on the action. Bet online, the game starts here. As always, we start the review of last week with roster news. Michael Lorenzen was sent out on a rehab assignment very recently. I believe he was in Omaha today. He was in Northwest Arkansas before that. What do you think Lorenzen's role should be when he gets back? Because obviously he's coming back pretty soon.
Yeah, I like his role, and I think we might have mentioned this. I can't remember if it was in the midweek episode or last week on Monday. But I think multi-inning reliever, kind of long guy for the playoffs that you can use in multiple situations if you really want to. In the playoffs, starting pitchers get the hook pretty quick. And so he's the kind of guy that if a guy gets a hook after giving up 4 runs in 3 innings, he can go the rest of the way and keep it at 4 runs. And that's
without having to burn through the rest of your bullpen.
Yeah. And so I think that's going to primarily be it. But if you get in a pinch and a guy does pretty well and but can only go 5 and you've taxed your bullpen nights before, he might be able to go 2 or 3 in 6, 7, and 8 because he's got experience as a mid-relief guy already in his career. So I think he gives you a big versatile piece in that bullpen, and I'm excited to get him back.
I think that should definitely be his role in the playoffs. For the rest of this regular season, I'm not really sure because Alec Marsh has
Don't
pitched
throw him. Don't
well
start
since
him.
he came back.
Get him into that role.
Okay, then get him in that role, I say, because Marsh has pitched well since coming back, and they seem to have an interesting combination of Marsh Lynch during those fifth time through the rotation spots, and it's working pretty well. And you know what? I think it'll be fine for the rest of the season, and then we'll see what they do with Marsh and Lynch as they transition into the playoffs, whether or not they make the playoff roster. I would love a situation. This is another pitch for the Substack. I actually put out on the Substack today, this morning it came out, my preference for what the pitching staff will look like in the playoffs. And so go ahead and give that a read if you're a Substack subscriber, or subscribe to the Substack so you can read it. It's really, really good. But I think it makes sense in my mind to find a way to get Lorenzen and definitely Marsh and maybe even Lynch on the playoff roster in some sort of bullpen capacity.
And that's the thing. It's not like there's not guys in that bullpen who still can't be sent down. You can send Zerpa back down. You can, Carlos Hernandez doesn't necessarily have to be up here, although he has done okay since being brought up this last time. I think there's guys, even if you had to maybe, I don't know if you want to give up Schreiber, but you got to find, to me, Marsh has to be in the bullpen. That's a given. And I like what Lynch has done. I like that combination that you were talking about of him. They kind of complement each other somewhat well in a backup kind of role.
Yeah. Speaking of bullpen, Chris Stratton was placed on the 15-day IL with a right forearm
out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere. Somehow this happened. Angel Zerpa was recalled as a corresponding move and brought up to the major league team. Mike, what are your thoughts on this completely surprising right forearm flexor strain for Chris Stratton?
Wow, just shocked, absolutely shocked that he just continues to melt down, and boom, he's injured.
And boom, there goes the flexor strain. Or I can't even flex.
Damn flexor just gave out on it.
That forearm flexor, it's always tricky. It's always tricky.
And so, no, if it is a real injury, I'm sorry for him and I want him to get better and all that sort of stuff. But you can't have him back in this bullpen this year. That can't be the case. They signed him to a 2-year deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so if they think, hey, we can see the fix to this and we got a plan for that, okay, keep him over the offseason and see if you can implement that plan. But he's got a short hook next year too, because it was bad. It was so bad for most of the year so far.
And here's the thing. It won't be a huge deal if he ends up on the team next year, but he's the last guy out of the bullpen, right, to start the year, right? That's not a huge deal. You can spend, a month or two seeing if he's, corrected whatever issues he was having this year. And then
carry Will Smith for how long?
I know. You can carry him for a month or two and see if he can regain some of the magic or whatever. But yeah, for now, if you're trying to get into the playoffs and you're trying to compete once you get into them, Chris Stratton has no place in this bullpen. Shadow IL, real IL, I don't know, right? Like, honestly, there's information we don't have and we'll never have, and that's fine. But it's important that the Royals fill that role with somebody who can really help them come playoff time. And now they have the best chance to do that. Honestly, they had 3 guys in this bullpen who were really dragging them down: Nick Anderson, Will Smith, and Chris Stratton. And now none of those guys are currently in the bullpen. And it looks like they probably won't be moving into the playoffs. And so, great job on by JJ and the front office managing this roster, honestly. On the field this week, it was a solid week for the Royals, I would say. They went 3-3. They dropped 2 which brings their overall record to 82-68. They are officially an over 500 team this year. They dropped 2 of 3 to the Yankees after a dramatic 11th inning loss cost them the rubber match, but they were right there that whole series. Then they took the first 2 from the Pirates before losing out on a sweep today, barely 4-3. Mike, how do you feel about the week overall?
Well, I feel pretty good. I mean, the Yankees are a really tough team. The Pirates are not that good, but they get paid to play, and they've got some decent arms on their team. I mean, obviously outside Skeens is fantastic, but the rest of them are, average to slightly
Pretty
above
good.
average in
Yeah.
many cases. Um, but I felt pretty good. I feel like we got a really good idea of what the team was in the last few weeks, really, but solidified that this week. They played the Yankees tough. This team belongs. Okay, if you can hang with the first place team in the AL East, you can hang with anybody, especially in the American League this year, where no one has really shot out and distinguished themselves as, hey, we're the best friggin' team in the AL. It looked like it was going to be Cleveland in the first half, and they had a very kind of
That was all
middle of the
smoke and
season.
mirrors, really, because
Yeah,
it was
and
that
so
was based on really good batted ball luck, great numbers with runners in scoring position, a very weak starting rotation, but a dynamite bullpen that they rode into the ground in the first half, and so yeah, that was always going to fall apart a little bit.
yeah, and I mean nobody else has been able to come forward. I mean Baltimore has runs and the Yankees has runs. So yeah, I feel like if you were hanging with the Yankees and the AL may not have a clear cut thing, I feel pretty good about the week and saying, hey, we know that this team can compete. We watched them do it over and over. We know the deficiencies of this team, and we know what they're going to try and do to cover them up.
Yeah, we do, and honestly, that has been effective all season, and this team is better than it was for the first half and even all the way up until the trade deadline, really. I mean, this is a better team than the team that came into this season, in large part because
Free
the
agent signings.
bullpen is so much better than it was. Well, the free agent signings, I'm talking about coming into this season. This is a better team than the team that started on opening day, in large part because the bullpen has been overhauled in significant ways. And so the
Mm.
bullpen is better. The offense misses Vinny Pasquantino. There's no doubt about that. But it helps to have Tommy Pham and Robbie Grossman and this rotation that they have going. I felt oddly confident this week because I saw how well they played against the Twins the previous week, and I saw how well they played against the Yankees, even though they ended up losing that series overall. And I saw how confident they were against the Pirates. That was like a real dismantling of the Pirates the first two games. And it just gave me the confidence to know, like, wait, this is one of the best teams in baseball. Like, this is a playoff team. Are they the absolute best team in baseball? Maybe not, but they are definitely playoff worthy. I mean, there's no doubt about that to me now. Like, they are definitely playoff worthy. And it was this week where I started to be like, all right, we're ready. Let's go. The playoffs, we're ready.
Yeah, and who'd have thought you could say that when their absolute best player is not having his best stretch?
No, he's not.
And they're playing in a style that you're like, okay, this might be the best they've played all year.
Yeah,
You know,
it's interesting because you're right. Bobby Wood Jr. is not hot right now, but you know who is? Kyle Isbell and Tommy Pham and a bunch of other guys are sort
Salvi.
of picking up that slack, and that's really what you need. I mean, the Yankees are a great team, but they're great because Aaron Judge and Juan Soto are great almost all of the time. And, other than that, they don't have a ton going on. And so that's why they haven't actually played very well lately, is because Judge hasn't played very well lately. And so we'll see what happens when we get to playoff time. But I'm more confident in this team now as a result of the depth that they have in the lineup and the better depth in the bullpen. I think it'll be stronger going into the playoffs. Mike, who was your strong performer for this week?
I just shouted his name, Salvador Perez. 9 for 22 this week, 2 home runs, 7 RBI, 3 walks to 4 strikeouts. He was able to get a 2-run shot in in the Pirates series. Was just, I mean, he was kind of the offensive backbone of the team, the run producer this week, and that's what we're going to need him to be in the playoffs too, because with Vinny out, he's got to be the one driving in those runs.
Yeah, with Vinny out especially, you're right. Like, he is the run producer in the middle of this lineup. Pham has done a good job getting on base. Bobby Witt Jr.
Yes.
typically does a good job getting on base. It's got to be Salvador Perez who drives those runs in, who hits for power. We've known him to show up big in big moments, and playoff time is a big moment. So hopefully that carries over into the postseason here. My strong performer for this week is a guy who basically anytime he has a good offensive week, I make him the strong performer because I love him so much.
4 times a year.
4 times a year, he has a really strong week offensively, and I make him the strong performer, and that's Kyle Isbell. He went 6 for 15 this week with 2 doubles, 1 home run, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts, 2 stolen bases. He was very much a spark plug at the bottom of the lineup this last week, doing amazing things to get on base and score important runs. If he like, who did I see? Alex Duvall, our good friend, put out a stat on Twitter yesterday. I want to say that said that Kyle Isbell since June 8th has a 96 weighted runs created plus. We've always said, what does he need to do? He needs to have at least an 80 weighted runs created plus to be a successful major league everyday player. He has been doing it, and it's because he's not an everyday player. They pretty much exclusively play him against right-handed pitchers. They put him in position to succeed offensively, and then he goes out and plays great defense. He had a great catch out in center field today. That was very important for the Royals. And so, yeah, great to see him having a strong week offensively. It will mean the world to this lineup if he can continue that offensive success, ending the season and moving into the playoffs. Not everybody was super stellar this week. Mike, who was your week performer for the week?
We mentioned him last week, but James MacArthur, I mean, it's so bad right now that he's another guy. I can't believe I didn't mention him earlier for the guys that we could still lose from this bullpen, because if it comes down to it and you got to choose between Daniel Lynch and James MacArthur, I'm probably going to, or whoever's that last guy, Alec Marsh or whoever is going to be that last guy into the bullpen, Zerpa even, give me them, because MacArthur is rough right now. 2 games, 2 appearances this week. He recorded 1 total out.
That's bad.
That's pretty bad, but not as bad as the 5 hits and the 4 earned runs with 2 walks and no strikeouts in 0.1 inning, a third of an inning. The guy was brutal. I mean, just, it's like, and it's so, we were talking about with somebody at work the other day. It's like, yeah, I looked down when he was coming in, then I looked back up and the game was tied, or the game, we were losing. It's so brutal right now. Ugh.
It's not ideal, that's for sure. I'll tell you what, like MacArthur, you just can't really make a case for him over Zerpa
Anyone.
or Marsh or Lynch or Steven Cruz even. Like, you can't make an argument for him over any of those guys right now, because he's just showing you that he's not going to get it done for you in the key moments. My week performer is a guy who, yeah, he didn't have a great week, but I'm guarantee 100% he's going to make that playoff roster and he's going to play a lot in the playoffs. And that's Freddie for me. He went 2 for 12 this week with 0 extra base hits, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts, and 1 stolen base. Freddie, somebody floated this out there, and I can't remember who. I want to say it was probably David Lesky, where he said something along the lines of related to Freddie Fermin. Some guys do well playing the exact amount they should play, and then they get to play more and they're a little overexposed. And he worried that was the case for Freddie Fermin. That might be the case for Freddie Fermin. I don't know. He's having to play more now because of the injury to Vinny Pasquantino, and he hasn't played well this last week at the very least, and maybe not for a while now. But I'm still not that worried about Freddie Fermin. I think he's going to do good things for the Royals. He's done great things behind the plate, and that's going to continue to be the case. And then I think he'll pitch in offensively when he can. He's not going to be a Salvador Perez-like offensive threat, but he can put together good at-bats. He can get you some singles here every now and again put a charge into a ball.
This is just anecdotal because I have absolutely no evidence, but I feel comfortable with him in the box in a crucial situation.
Oh, me too.
It never seemed like the moment was too big for Freddie Fermin, even when he's in a slump and stuff. And so, yeah, he strikes me as that kind of guy who gets a huge hit in the playoffs. Maybe he's a Royals hero at some point.
Mike, with a 3-3 week and the Royals staring down the barrel of a playoff appearance, what is your theme for this week?
I go to the song to a musical great, Colin Hay.
He is a musical great.
Former lead singer of Men at Work. Am I right in that?
Mm-hmm. Men at Work.
Former lead singer of the Australian band Men at Work.
He is himself Australian.
Yes. Wrote a couple of great songs, actually, in a solo career. If you've never listened to it, he's very good. Had his biggest song from that. Was this the one that was in the show Scrubs, or was that a different one?
This one was on the show Scrubs, but I don't think this is from his solo career. I believe he did this song with Men at Work. I'm not 100%
did he really?
sure about that, but
okay.
Yeah, but I could be.
Anyway,
I think that's
the song is called "Waiting for My Real Life to Begin," but the line is, or one of the lines that I chose from it is, "Just let me throw one more dice. I know that I can win. I'm waiting for my real life to begin." It's like waiting for the playoffs. I'm waiting for that real experience to begin, because I know we have a chance with this team. With the starting rotation, we have a chance to win some games, maybe win a series. And if you get hot with the bats, who knows, in the playoffs. And I'm waiting for that opportunity to show it.
Yeah, that'll be electric, and I really can't wait. Which is why my theme actually is very much playoff related as well. Comes from the great Bob Seger, who I've been using. I feel like a lot during themes the last couple of months
It's because he's
because
such a great
he's so good.
songwriter.
He's so
The
good at
guy
everything.
writes what I
He's
think.
right. He's inside my heart, just taking notes. Like
That's right.
love Bob Seger. Uh, this is from his song "Till It Shines," and I used it because I think it's about sort of getting a second chance, a fresh start, which I think the playoffs always is. And so we need to think of it that way. But also, it makes me think of the ways in which JJ has just given the Royals a new future, right? And the line is, deal me up another future from some brand new deck of cards. I'm going to have to sing it. It sounds better when it's sung. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Deal me up another future from some brand new deck of cards. Brilliant.
It is.
Just I'll
Bob
sing the whole
Seger.
thing for anybody who wants to hear it. But
Still does a great show too. Bob does.
Royals Weekly is brought to you by All In Physical Therapy. You already know that All In Physical Therapy gave our mother the strength of 10 Ultimate Warriors. What you don't know is that Mom loved her experience there because of the personal attention she got from Tommy and the staff at All In. They guarantee a personalized one-on-one experience to suit the needs of patients recovering from total joint surgeries, sports injuries, or any kind of injury or pain.
Pain is like the bulge I have in the middle of my back. I don't think it's going away just by ignoring it.
No, it's definitely, we can
Probably
all
not.
see it. All In Physical Therapy is owned and operated by Tommy Freever with locations in Blue Springs, Lee Summit, and Belton. But most importantly, they're in network for nearly all insurance providers.
Being in network is so crucial, like loose fitting shirts for your back goiter.
Yeah, that's gross. If you're a high school athlete recovering from injury or someone bouncing back with a brand new hip or knee, check out the best physical therapy in the KC Metro at allin-pt.com. That's ALLIN-pt.com, or give them a call at 816-427-5300. That's 816-427-5300. The Royals are on the precipice of making the playoffs after a 106 loss season last year. Fangraphs gives them a 98% chance of making the playoffs. That was coming into today. We'll see if that's gone up or down slightly, but it's still going to be pretty close to that. That's pretty high. So we're going to tempt fate and go ahead and preview the playoffs during today's Spotlight segment. It's not yet clear what spot the Royals will have or who they'll play, but we'll start by pretending they'll end up right where they are right now. If the Royals end where they currently are, they'd be the second wildcard team, the 5th seed. They'd be facing the Baltimore Orioles in the wildcard round. Mike, how do you feel about a potential Royals-Orioles matchup?
Well, I saw our good friend Alex Duvall put something out, I think, on the social medias that said I think he basically insinuated that he would rather face Baltimore than New York, and that that Baltimore has had a little bit isn't as hot as New York is. New York's not necessarily hot, but Baltimore's had a rougher go of it in the second half. And so I started looking, okay, what did they do in the second half? They're 23-22 since the All-Star break. Their OPS, this was a big one. Their team OPS is less than 700, and it's like 28th in the league or something. It's
since the
way
All-Star break?
down there. Yeah, since the All-Star break. And so I was like, wow, that's pretty interesting because that lineup is crazy deep. Like Rutschman, Cowser, the kid at short, Holiday, Gunnar Henderson, Holiday, just Santander. I like him a lot.
Who's that kid at second? He killed the Royals.
I always hated him. I
can't think of his name, but he's real good too.
And yeah, so super deep lineup, but they just haven't been hitting in the second half here. And so, so there's some good things to like about it. But the thing that scares me is that's the profile of a team that can actually hit Royals starters.
Mm-hmm.
That really deep lineup that's going to take a great at bat 1 through 9 and has the potential to hit home runs 1 through 9. The Royal starters have just, when they have struggled, which has been so rare this year, it's been with lineups like that. So scares me a little bit. It's not the team that I would want to face most, but I don't hate it.
I don't love it either. I'm not sure which team I would rather they face, the Yankees or the Orioles, honestly. I mean,
I think for me it's the Yankees by a hair.
I mean, we're really honestly, they're not that different of teams. The one big difference in my mind is the Orioles have a deeper lineup, but they both have some starting pitching issues, and that's the thing. I feel like the Royals can get to some of these Orioles starters. Like they've faced Corbin Burns a few times and had a couple of good games against him. They've faced Dean Kramer a few times. I don't think they've done great against him, but they've also, seen him, and so that means something. They've just seen some of these guys a few times, and I think that would help. But you're right; they are extremely deep. The Orioles, they are, very capable 1 through 9, and so that's the thing that scares you, especially when the Royals starting rotation is good, but you worry about Singer against good lineups, or at least I do,
And good lefties,
and
of which they have many.
of which they have many. And then you worry about how good can Waka and Lugo be against a lineup that's this deep. I still have that sort of lingering concern. Mike, where do you think the Royals would have strengths in this matchup?
Well, the one thing that we kind of mentioned there is, yes, it's a deep lineup, but it's a very young lineup. Gunnar Henderson, Cowser, Holiday, all real young guys. Okay. Michael Waka, Seth Lugo, even Singer, and I mean, even to some extent, Reagan's. They've got a lot of experience in this league, and we've been seeing it a lot recently. We saw it in Waka start against Pittsburgh. We saw it in a start. I can't maybe against the Yankees or the series before that, but yeah, you
Twins.
saw
We saw it against the Twins.
the
From
Twins.
Waka.
That's what it was. Another young lineup, and he just kind of showed them what it was to be in the big leagues. Like, okay, this is these are. I don't throw a changeup. I throw 3 or 4 different kinds of changeups. I'll speed it up a little bit and I'll drop it a little more. Like he's going to teach them a lesson in how to do this, and so will Seth Lugo. So that's maybe the one kind of advantage I see out of that is really crafty veteran starters for us against a young, hyped up playoff lineup. Like, oh, it's the playoffs. You're really eager. I'm going to get you to swing at things you wouldn't normally.
And here's the thing. I think if you're the Orioles or if you're Orioles fans, one of the things that would be getting to me is that the expectations are all on them. I mean, nobody's like, "Hey, the Royals are going to go in there and just lay waste to the Orioles." Nobody's thinking that. And so, I think there's an expectations game that they can benefit from. I do think the Royals do have like a slight strength in the fact that the Orioles rotation, I think, is entirely except for one lefty who I wouldn't be surprised if they kept out of the rotation. Uh, they're all right-handed, and the Royals hit right-handed pitching far better than they hit left-handed pitching, and so there is a slight maybe advantage there that plays a little bit to the Royals' strengths, and so that would be something pleasant. That also means that gives Kyle Isbell a chance to start basically every game in center field, which increases your defensive capability and that sort of thing. And so I think there are some things that really help the Royals going into this. Obviously, a lot of good talent on the Orioles side, but there are some things that might benefit the Royals just a bit. Mike, who of the playoffs teams that are in the American League do you hope the Royals don't end, or do you hope the Royals end up facing? Who do you think they might have an advantage against in this playoff?
Well, the team that I don't want to face, I think is what you're trying to say.
No,
You
I
hit
mean,
me?
who do you hope they face?
Oh, I thought this says that hope they don't end up facing.
No, this read the question above it.
Oh, I can't read or write. I'm so sorry.
We're leaving all this in, Mike.
So I think they have a good chance against the Guardians. And here's why. We went 8-5 against them, but you and I talked about the matchup seems to fit the Royals so well with the Guardians because it's not a deep lineup. It's not exceptionally deep. It's better than what's been in years past because you have Naylor now to support Ramirez a little bit. But the bottom of that lineup is not very good. The other Naylor can't hit. Rocchio really can't hit, although I think he had a big hit against the Royals earlier this year. But, these guys aren't phenoms down there at the bottom. And so, and then I think their starting pitching is gettable, is very gettable. Now you don't want to get to Claus or Clace or whatever his name is in their closer. He's unbelievable. But yeah, I think the Guardians set up really well. I like
Yeah,
them better than just about anybody else.
yeah, and we've talked about how the Royals match up well with them all season, and as a result, they've done pretty well against them all season. I would agree. I think they also match up fairly well with the Yankees, just because the Yankees have a not very deep lineup, right? It's very top heavy, and their rotation is probably better than Cleveland's, but there are issues there, right? It's
Yeah.
not like an
I,
ironclad, and some of it's injury related. They've
yeah.
been somewhat hurt in their rotation, and they don't have the ironclad bullpen that Cleveland
Yeah.
has, and
See,
so
that's my thing. Like, I feel like the Yankees have a good bullpen, but the top end is not very good. That's not very good. They're all good guys, but it's not as good as I think what they thought it was going to be on the back
right,
end.
they don't
And so it's
have
like,
an
yeah,
HDH back there where okay, we
no,
know this game's over after 6 innings, right? Like it's not like that for the Yankees, where it is close to like that for the Guardians. And so, but although the thing about I also wonder about the Guardians is they have used that bullpen a ton, and so how effective is it going to be come playoff time? That's a good question to ask, I think. Um, Mike, we've talked about the teams you would want the Royals to face. Who would you not want the Royals to face in this
no,
playoffs?
this is the one I was trying to answer earlier.
Yeah,
Okay. I'm
we
just
got you.
trying to skip ahead, man. You're taking forever here. No,
I'm not.
the the Houston Astros are a team that I do not think the Royals want to see. I don't think a lot of people want to see them right now. Honestly, everybody left them for dead, and they are probably the hottest team of this whole second half. I mean, they are top 5 in OPS as a team in the last month. They have a deep starting rotation. They have a strong bullpen. But the matchup thing that gets me is they have got two absolute left-handed mashers in the middle of that lineup, and including Jordan Alvarez, who I consider to be a top 5 hitter in the league. After Shohei and Judge and him, and there may be
Maybe
one other guy,
Soto.
maybe Soto. He's fantastic. Jordan Alvarez is so good, and then they just got Kyle Tucker back, and he can put him out with the best of them as well. So that lineup scares me. Uh, the
That
starting
would that would
the
scare me
starting
against
rotation
Singer
does
for
too.
sure, and that's why he's I think always done poorly against the Astros. That would scare me against Singer. Maybe against Lugo. Wouldn't scare me as much against Waka because Waka's got that killer changeup to throw to a
Yeah, but
lefty.
man,
Yeah, and there are times you worry about like, oh, he misses it, and that if you miss a changeup to a lefty as a righty, it is like
it's
the
gone.
easiest pitch on earth to hit out.
It's
It's
gone.
gone. It's gone. He'll have to be sharp with it if he ever ends up facing the Astros. Besides the Orioles, I think the Twins might be a scary matchup for the Royals. They didn't have great success against the Twins early in the year, but when the Twins were healthier. This is if the Twins' lineup is healthy. We saw them sweep the Twins a week or so ago, and that was mostly the result of the fact that the Twins were very beat up offensively. And so if that can stay the case, then I'm fine with the matchup. But if the Twins get healthier, it might be a little tougher of a matchup for the Royals. Don't love some of the matchups there pitching wise for the Royals because Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober and some of that the Royals just
Well, Joe
haven't.
Ryan's still out, isn't he?
He'll be out for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
They just haven't fared well against that rotation in the past. Royals Weekly is brought to you by Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Phoenix has all of our favorite things: year-round golf, year-round baseball, and Eric Oxer of West USA Realty. Whether you want to buy your dream retirement home or just stay a while and catch spring training, Eric can help you find the perfect house. We've known him for 30 years and trust him far more than we even trust each other.
Mark literally tried to crush me to death with a swing set on Saturday. That was yesterday.
I thought I was going to get you there for a second.
Yeah, and I think you did actually seriously hurt my shoulder. So thank you.
I dropped a swing set on him. Eric does long-term rentals for the snowbird crowd and home sales and purchases for those who want to stay a while longer. Are you a baseball player or parent who needs a place in the Phoenix area? Eric will find you the perfect spot fast. You want to spend your days shanking golf balls into the great beyond? Eric knows the golf scene like Mike knows how to gracefully evade a falling swing set. Find Eric online at ericoxer.com if you can figure out how to spell his name. It's ERICKAUXIER.com. Or just shoot him a text at 480-383-9745. That's 480-383-9745. Even if you're just curious about what he can do for you, he's 100% no pressure, one of the best people we know.
And he had 0 diagnosed concussions in his acclaimed football career.
Diagnosed, not diagnosed. The Royals get a nice homestand this week with 3 games against the rapidly rising Detroit Tigers and the pretty irrelevant San Francisco Giants. Mike, tell us about the Tigers. They're rising up the standings. They're biting at the heels of the Twins. Tell us about the Tigers.
Yeah, just they're real comers, They're real getting after it in the back end. Can't beat the fight out of this team.
That's a 1950s term that now means something a lot different.
It's now real gross. The Tigers are 77 and 73 now. Okay, 4th in the AL Central, but just 2.5 back for the final wild card spot.
Can we stop for a second and just say everybody was trashing on the AL Central coming into this year? They have 4 teams over 500 at this point. They're going to have both of the wild cards. It just depends, will it be the Twins or will it be the Tigers? Stop dogging on the AL Central. The AL Central killed it this year.
That's it. Let's see how the AL Central does in the playoffs before
we go. The playoffs is all short sample size bullshit. Cleveland had the best record for a long time, and it's the deepest division in baseball.
Okay. Okay. In that first game, it's going to be Seth Lugo. I'd like to get him off in a series and to set a statement against We Don't Know. They haven't announced a starter yet for that first game, so I like our chances.
I like our chances on that one.
Especially if they choose to throw nobody. In that second game, Cole Reagan's Day versus Casey Mize, former first overall pick, 27-year-old right-hander out of Auburn University, 4.47 ERA and a 1.4 whip. I usually classify Casey Mize at this point as a starter. He is a starter. He should be in a rotation, but he's not going to shock you with his ability. 4-seam fastball in the mid-90s, a slider, a splitter, a sinker, a knuckle curve. His fastball gets hit a ton, and so does the splitter. He's got good breaking stuff still, and and zone up the fastball and hit it a mile if you can. Hopefully we can get to Casey Mize because the next game is going to be a toughie. It's Alec Marsh and Lorenzen likely, or maybe
I wondered that's in there because there's been some reporting that Lorenzen might start that game. That might be his game back.
Okay. We could see the Marsh Lynch combo or Lorenzen back. We'll see. Don't know. But it's going to be a toughie because Tarek Skubel's going to be on the other side, and he is so freaking good. 27-year-old lefty out of Seattle University, 2.5 ERA, a .94 whip. He's been pitching all year, and he's got a whip under 1. Ache. 4-seam fastball, very good changeup, sinker, slider, good slider too, knuckle curve. He's really good. He's battling for a Cy Young, and I feel like the Tigers don't deserve him.
After that, they'll get an off day, and then they'll get to face the Giants here at home again. The Giants are 72 and 78. That's 4th in the NL Central. NL West. Been kind of NL West. They've just been kind of coasting on mediocrity for most of the year. Offensively, they're have a 97 weighted runs created plus as a team. That's good enough for 19th in the Major League Baseball. They're getting an amazing year. Nobody's going to talk about it because the Giants aren't doing very well, and that's out west. But Tyler Fitzgerald, their shortstop, replacing Brandon Crawford, has a 150 OPS plus right now. He's having quite a season. They're getting good years out of Lamont Wade and Matt Chapman as well. They just gave Matt Chapman a big extension, a 4-year contract or 6-year contract or something to a 34-year-old guy. It was a very weird thing. I'm not loving that contract, but they did it, so good for them. On the pitching side, they are 20th in the league in ERA as a team with a 4.19 ERA. They have Logan Webb, who's still very good. Jordan Hicks is okay. Blake Snell gets you 5 quality innings most of the time. And so they have some decent starters, not as great of a bullpen, not super deep in the rotation. So hopefully the Royals can get to them and take that series. We'll end this week's episode like we end every episode. Same way, every time, like clockwork. We're talking about something outside of baseball. Mike, what is going on in your life outside of baseball?
Oh, so many things. I almost got killed by a swing set.
Yep.
I had to fix said swing set.
Yep. It's all swing set related this week.
A lot of swing set stuff this week. But no, a lot of football watching too, I guess. But No, I was at the grocery store today, and I kind of wanted to talk about this little experience here and ask of parents something. I took my son grocery shopping with me, which I don't usually do because it just takes longer with him. you
He
know,
likes to just
uh,
randomly scream and run into things, which is
sometimes,
tough
yeah,
at the
at
grocery
times,
store.
but he stays in the cart usually, and
Oh, okay, that
all that
helps.
sort of stuff. So he doesn't really run around. But we get through there, and I decided, he's getting older. He's like 2.5 now, so I'm like, I take him out so that he can help me put the groceries in the bag, right? Which takes forever. It takes so long because every time he does it, I have to fix it, right? But that's the thing. Everybody was looking at him like, well, because he's friggin' adorable, but
He
also
is.
like, this kid, like, what are you having this kid do? And I'm going, and I'm thinking, like, I wonder if other people do this. I'm sure other people do this. I can't have invented this. I'm not like good at parenting, but are we
He's not.
letting our kids who are not like older, our toddlers, are we letting them do things that they can't do, be bad at them just to teach them? I hope
You
so.
should.
I hope so. And so that's kind of what I let him try to do today. And I let him help me with the laundry the other day, and I let him help me unload the dishwasher because it's like, dude, but he's not quite tall enough to reach the drawer the silverware goes in. And so he just throws it. He's like shooting baskets in the drawer. Boom. So what do I have to do? I have to grab it and put it where it's supposed to go. But just to get him to kind of understand, like, this is all your stuff that mom and dad do that eventually you will help with. You might as well start learning it now, I guess. I'm sure this is probably a thing. I should have read a book about parenting so I wouldn't come on here like an asshole and say, I invented this. I did not invent this, I'm sure. But I've just recently started doing it. And so I guess that's why it's such a marvel to me.
Yeah, it's a marvel to me in part because I think it's good to have kids do things that they're not good at, like or can't do. Like
Like
struggling
when
is
I
a
do art.
right. Struggling is an important part of our development as human beings, and so like there are many things that I've done over the course of my life that I'm not good at. Golf stands out.
It's
Many
a
other things.
playing music. Like,
Right,
as
playing the piano.
musicians,
I'm
we're less
terrible
than
at the piano.
mediocre, but we do
There are
it.
many things I'm not good at. Running, other things too,
Mhm.
and so. But it's good to be bad at things. Like it's like a very good quality in people. And so yeah, I actually heard somebody talk about this the other day. It was sort of about graduate school and the types of people who go to graduate school and how they're like not people who are willing to try things they think they'll be bad at. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. But it made me think of my old uh, grad school mate, my office mate, who was like, I don't play golf. And I'm like, why not? And he's like, because I suck at it. And I'm like, so he's like, I don't do things I'm not bad
So
at,
does
or I'm going to
everybody
be bad at.
else.
It's like, that's bad. Like, do things you're bad at. It's good for you to do that. It helps teach determination and many other things. But anyway, that's just my 2 cents as a person without kids. Um, and there's nothing parents like more than the advice of people who don't have kids. And so, what I'm talking about today is something that I what
That's hilarious. That's the funniest
I
thing you've
know.
said this whole episode, by the way.
Well,
Thank you
yeah,
for
it's
saving it.
yeah, you're welcome. Uh, I'm talking about something else that I did for myself today. So today I was supposed to, I had it on the docket to like finish building my fence today to like because my fence has been built, but it needs gates, like to open and close and go in and stuff. And so my partner and I have been building them, and we need to finish building them, the gates and attaching them. And we had it set to do today, but I woke up today and I was like, I'm tired. I've had a long year, basically. And I'm just like worn out. And I was like, I need a day off. And so I just said, I went up to her and I was like, hey, can we not do the gates today and I can just take a day off? And she was like, sure. And so I just took a day off today. And I'm like, what I want to talk about is like the value of giving yourself a day off, whether it be on the weekend or from work or whatever. Give yourself some days off because you will feel so much. I feel so much better today as a result of having had the day off to just do the things that I want to do. That I'm going to be so much more productive next week, and I'm going to have feel so much better about what I'm doing next week. And so, if you're somebody who sort of needs permission or needs somebody to tell you to take a day off, take that day off. You'll never regret it, I promise. That's all we have for you this week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for joining us here on Royals Weekly presented by Bet Online. We will see you again next week, of course. For Royals Weekly subscribers, we will see you on Thursday morning as well. Until then, be good to each other.
And go Royals.